not hearing the waiting room music. Did I mute something? Shouldn't there be? I don't know. Well, we will, Alrighty, I have unmuted the microphone. So, I believe the humidifier is still on, but I guess I'm going to leave it now because I don't want to get up out of position. So hopefully it doesn't gurgle too much water or make too much fan noise. I think we'll be okay as far as that goes. And yeah, it's been quite a while since we have. Well, as I say, it's been 2 months since my last confession, and hopefully it'll go all right. And again, I am starting to feel a little bit more like, you know, I mean, I try to make these things be a little formal, and I kind of ask myself, well, why? Like, why don't I just show up and talk? And sometimes folks in the YouTube channel and the Discord and stuff, they ask things like that. But I don't know. There's some instinct. There's some push I feel to try to make a little bit of an event out of it, so that it feels important enough to me that it acts like a genuine deadline, and I try to get things finished and so on and so forth by them. So, all right, I better not start rambling on here, or I'm going to miss the top of the hour. So hopefully folks can stick around afterwards and may have questions or comments, and we can talk about anything if there's anything to talk about. Okay, see you on the other side. That is the gong outside our house because it's windy. Okay, so be it. Uh, uh, and a jet over the house. Great. Hey folks, Happy New Year's. It's T2sday. The results for this time, the goals for this time didn't do very well. Starting at the bottom, so some fucking timeline we're in, huh? This is a record for my goal that I failed at the fastest in less than 24 hours from the time I set this as a goal for mine to the time that didn't happen. BV's world model, that's the main thing. I was supposed to actually get a world model, but it's not exactly clear what that is, so I'll talk about that. Next LCF book over the hump, I'll talk about that as well. I mean, basically, I got the feeling that, a world model is a really big task, and it has a lot of different meanings and a lot of different aspects. So even if I get a little bit of progress, I'm going to say a plus minus. I'm going to say there's a little bit of something, and I will talk about that today. And just this morning, as I was wasting time while supposedly preparing for right now, The Verge had an article, Google is building its own world modeling AI team. Like that, world model, it's the same thing. Because what a world model allows you to do is to imagine stuff happening in your head, and the world model makes a prediction about what the result of something might be, so you can go back and forth and you can do, now of course, large language models are notorious for making inferences that aren't true. Well, now large language models augmented with world models will be able to make reasoning that isn't true, but then an awful lot of human reasoning isn't true true either. So usually I talk about development first community, and I'm going to turn it around the other way because I've got some things to go on. So last November, it's been 2 months since my last confession. The original goal for all of this, was to produce the collected works of Vaughn Joy Manin, this mysterious person or collective entity from the future who wrote the Path to Best Effort in 2038 or 2039. I don't remember exactly, and so on. But the one basic problem that I had trouble getting around with is that Vaughn Joy Manin hasn't written very much, and after struggling with it, along with doing lots of other stuff, original goal, new goal, Collected Works Volume 1, which in Nerdland would be Collected Works 10, a Living Computation Foundation book. And the idea is anything that relates to living computation is fair game. And Andrew, who wrote a really great understandable, unlike my presentations, introduction to robust first computation, wrote a pretty long blog post about it. He's agreed that we can reprint that in Collected Works 10. Lou Wilson and I think are going to try to extend our dialogues on natural code to continue the dialogue and have a revised version in the Collected Works and so on. So I feel good about this. This is number one. There's a chance of getting pages that I don't have to write, and I want to bring the community in. I want to say, there really isn't any place to say, it's a little premature to say living computation has a real field and practitioners and so forth, but it could be going in that direction, and it'll be a good thing to have a place to collect our stuff. So that's the plan. Also, in November, I think I spoke at a Santa Fe Institute working group meeting on emergent engineering. I'm going to show like maybe 30 seconds or so of that, and then talk about
What Machines Want is a provocative title that I enjoyed quite a bit. I kept wanting to stick on a subtitle, something like, how bottom-up engineering will solve all our problems or something like that. But then it just was so much punchier without a subtitle, so I stuck with it. I'm going to answer the question, what machines want. Machines want space, materials, power, and time. So what I have been working on for about the last a decade or more is called the T2 Tile project. And my goal is to build a whole new computational stack to demonstrate other ways to compute. A lot of folks who I've spoken to, especially folks coming from other disciplines than computation, tend to have a very narrow view of computation, like CPU and RAM and deterministic execution. That's what computation is.
Yeah, so in that context, I posted a link to the video, which didn't have the question and answer period, just the video, on the Fediverse, where I do my social media, such as it is, and got a reply guy that came out of the woodwork. Need engineering for robustness, but I call bullshit. Machines don't want anything. Nothing like a living cell. Agency has nothing to do with computing. People are not, etc. And, in the typical fashion where, it starts out with a nominally positive thing, need engineering, and then just slags, continuously all the way through. This person was really quite upset. But I just talked about it. What they were doing was taking this narrow version that the only thing the computation is traditional computability, narrow universal computation, all of that stuff that doesn't apply to the T2sday, the T2 matrix. So I responded, welcome, soldier for narrow computation. And it went on back and forth several times. And I was trying to maintain a certain amount of good-natured, human-to-human contact. But the reply guy was definitely not interested in that. All the bullshit you're dishing out, your self-promoting video, glib dismissals, fooling yourself. Computationalism is a cult. I might take that, actually. Pitiable and so on and so forth. And, so I interacted a little bit, probably more than I really wanted to. I'm playing my FedI Council Priorities game, and that's why I wanted to mention it here. It's the idea of spirit first, that if we're in a communication environment where it's not just casual and friendly, but it's, unknown people you might communicate with, the most important thing is you have to be good-spirited about what you're saying, which means being a cranky reply guy is in violation of the rules of the FedI Council. So my takeaway from this, well, number one, of course, it's, social media and the received wisdom that you're just supposed to block and move on. By and large, I agree with that. But I decided to take this guy as practice to try to do spirit first, to try to respond in ways that were actually good-spirited, good-natured, even if I was zinging them a little bit, and they would think that I was not being good-natured, but I felt like I actually was, and that took some work, to lay off all of that, the slag and so forth. So I felt like it was practice, and I feel like I got some stuff from it, so that was okay. And so the general category of spirit first, and this I put this in my Fediverse profile a year or two ago. I don't know, spirit before name. That's the idea. It doesn't matter who you are, you got to be good-spirited, or the only topic of discussion is the fact that you're not being good-spirited, and we need to figure out why so that you can become good-spirited, and then we can move on to whatever it is you want to talk about, even if you want to criticize. Okay, but I felt like this was an apt time to update the T2 tile progress meter, which has been stuck since 2018 at the ridicule stage of Gandhi's steps to the success of a movement. First they ignore you, then they laugh at you, then they fight you, then they win. In 2018, I was ridiculed by no less than Alan Kay himself, and today I am declaring yes, it was just some internet theory rando that was fighting me about this stuff, but the progress meter has moved. There'll be more ridicule, there'll be more fights and so forth, but that's that. Okay, now let's talk about the code and development. The project, as I said, for 2025. Build a world model. And why do we want a world model? Because it allows us to do reasoning and all kinds of things. How are we going to do it? Well, in the case of BV, our robot, we are going to continue to try to focus on having BV figure out where BV is on the grid, and being able to record when BV discovers things are someplace, to somehow record that and come back. The current step is follow the damn line. And line following is something that's well known from robot stuff, and so in some sense this should have been easy. So let's look at this. So this is just base BV, zooming around, having a great time. And now we're trying to get BV to follow the lines between the light and dark tiles on the checkerboard. And basically, if there was any way to do it wrong, the dev team down in the project labs figured out a way to do it. Like, not detecting the signals properly, to when you do detect the signals, go in the wrong direction, and on and on and on. Experiments here, BB's brain actually gets completely remapped. This is still the old form. Yeah, and it was wiggling, but so now I'm speeding it up because once again, it's incredibly slow. It's still the old brain. So now it's actually starting to work. It's following the line. It's following the line and even managing to cross the cross lines from one tile to the other. That now it's just trying to find the damn line. That's all right. So there it is. It finds the line, and then BB starts to make some progress. And I speed it up again. This is still the old brain. I'm like, maybe I don't have the newer brain on this reel. I'm not sure. But basically, the problem was the control loop is slow enough and the actions on the motors are coarse enough that BV has to go incredibly slow to hold the track on the line with the code that it's got so far. But it does manage to do it. And that looks like it's really vibrating because I've sped it up even beyond its normal rate. Now we're going to have the problem where BB follows the line all the way to where there is no more line, and the red shows up as if it's all light colored. But, you know, this took, I don't know, it took several days of working on it. Look at that. Look at that. Boom. I mean, again, he's going super slow in reality, but look at that. That was straight. Right, so that's pretty cool. And why do we care about the world model? These are my candidates for a title cards. I don't think I can really use this one because it's going to make people think it's about political activism, which it is, but it's so abstract. We'll never know it. BV's Project 2025. Build a world model so that it can use it and do much more thinking. In particular, do sequential thinking, not just stimulus response reactions. That's the goal. That would be pretty cool. I mean, to actually see that running in cellular automata with all these things, that would be okay. So that's it. The goals for the next T2sday update in February, BV follows the line faster. And, there's a lot of stuff about robotics, how to do that better. I'm going to do a PD controller. And if we get progress on that, which I'm hoping we really will, then BV will also start to count the crossings so that BV can know how many tiles it's gone over. I need to review my own world model because I'm wondering what to do about what's going on in the state of the world. And given everything in the state of the world, I want to make fun and share it. Thanks so much for dropping in and checking it out. Happy New Year anyway, and I hope to see you again in February. Okay, and now, theoretically, we can just yak a bit. If there's any people that have any thoughts to yak about, and yeah, Project 25, it's so awful. Andrew, hey, Andrew, MBot 2 coding robot. He said. It's a beefy. All right. That's great. Yeah. So Andrew says my son got an MBot 2 coding robot for Xmas, and when he opened it, I said it's a BV. It's quite a close resemblance to with an RGB and distance sensor. Murillo was talking about in our Arduino, I think it was an Arduino robot, that was a, two-wheel with a skid in the front and a similar kind of construction. So I didn't catch a picture of BV's new bottom. So now he's got the two gray sensors, front left and front right, but also got a third gray sensor in the front, dead center, so that it can actually get fractional, between 0 and 255, depending on whether it's mostly gray or light gray or mostly dark gray. And so anyway, the yeah, so people will disagree and argue with you no matter what. Yeah, it's funny. I mean, I've certainly been that guy. Maybe not that long or not that extreme, but I've certainly been in the mode where I think I am God's gift to truth, and somebody says something, and I just want to slip in with a little correction, well, actually, etc., etc. Uh, uh, but I'm thinking a lot more about, like I said, spirit first. That if we're gonna survive and have, I think, a more effective kind of relationships and power structures and all that kind of stuff than anarchy, oligarchy, dictatorship, fascism, all of these structures that we have seen before that they work after a fashion. They work for some people and not for others. Certainly, the fundamental problem of the hierarchical structure, the authoritarian structure, is that by definition there has to be a bottom, and we don't want that. That's what democracy is trying to avoid by equalizing over people. So we will see. And Samter said, I really agree with the approach of using online discussion as practice. Yeah, you might not be able to reach someone, but you can develop or maintain thick skin. Yeah. Thank you for that comment, Samter. I don't. I have famously thin skin. you know? And if I had to respond in real time, I would not be able to maintain spirit first. I don't think. And I'm getting better. Practice. But I think also the good thing about it is that, right, so I took all the screenshots of all the interactions back and forth, and I tried to hide the guy's name, but it was easy to figure out who it was and find their grant agencies and stuff like that. And it just struck me as weird that somebody who was a funded researcher or investigator or something would come out with this reply guy stuff, just this nasty, unbelievably privileged stuff. And now, again, another take on it, as far as I'm concerned, is, like I said at the very beginning of the What Machines Want, that it is a provocative title. Because it's easy to say, if you say, did you watch the video? No, I read the title. And the guy did more than just read the title, but obviously, I think the title set his teeth on edge, and so he was coming out gunning for bear by the time he actually was reacting. And it is provocative, but again, people get stuck thinking that something has to be, that there's one thing that's true or literally true, and everything else is at best metaphor or just disgusting, evil, sinful air, like that. And the that is number one that has to go. That number one, we have to recognize that there's many ways to describe anything, and there's no way on God's green earth to describe something perfectly. By describing it as one thing, you're marginalizing everything else that it might be. By describing a person as a machine, you're marginalizing everything. By describing a person as a musician, you're marginalizing everything about their computational aspects, the sodium channels, or whatever it is. And that's the whole point. That's, the idea that there could be absolute literal truth, and everything else can be disposed of. Wow, that's so wrong. And to me, that's the heart and soul of the Hyperspace Academy, natural code, self-image, living computation, all of these ideas that are all clustered together, that we have to choose. There is no single code. There's more than one way to write the code. And every way that we choose to write it, any way that we choose to write it, will be better for some purposes and worse for other purposes. That is inevitable. That is unavoidable. So someone coming off with, no, that's just not true, is already a danger sign that they're in the grip of a fantasy, a piece of that they've got code running in their head that they've forgotten they're running. They're running code that they think is the external reality, and they say this is not that, and therefore, since this is not that, and I think that is reality, therefore this is not reality. And to be able to step back and say, no, that's just the code that you're running to describe that reality out there, which is really completely ineffable, and we really can't say anything about it at all, except by choosing our words in a hopefully good-spirited and useful, fit for purpose for whatever we're talking about right now. And we will talk about people in some other way when we have some other purpose that we're trying to accomplish, that the purpose of the communication, the purpose of the code transmission is for. And I really do think, I'll stop talking about this, but I really do think that, philosophers, thinkers, religious folks, all kinds of people over the centuries and the millennia have, nothing new here, nothing new at all in concept of, there's the code, and there's the reality and all that stuff. But to me, it feels like experience with programming. It's not just experience with the idea of programming, not just, yes, I imagined what a Turing machine could be, but actually wrangling code and building big things and finding the kinds of things that go wrong and kinds of trade-offs that you have between representing something this way and representing something that way. I think it should make it more possible for more people to get the developer mindset. And the goal is to find a critical mass, to reach a tipping point, if such things exist. They exist sometimes. Where enough people get it that it'll be more difficult for people to pretend they don't get it, like this guy did, where I didn't quote him specifically, but since I kept stressing the good-spiritedness and stuff, he was making snarky things like, is that what you mean by good spirit? Or so you're doing glib dismissals and ad hominem attacks, is that what you call good-spirited? Like that. And the response, one response that I didn't make, but the thought was, yeah, the problem with that is, what good-spirited means. What I mean by good-spirited. You know it, and we know you know it. And so coming up with one, hey, what do you mean by good spirit? It just doesn't cut it. We don't believe you. And that's what, theoretically, that's the idea of what will box hypocrites in. That they will be unable to deny that they know what good spirit means in general, And then they're going to be having to defend why they aren't doing that right now, if indeed they're not. And that's why we're back to priority one of the FedI Council priorities, where we're trying to get to being in good spirits before we can start getting into the meat of any conversation, whatever it's supposed to be about. Okay, anyway, non-real-time communication, yes, it can. And all right, well, folks, wow, there's still a few folks hanging around. Thank you so much for coming. I'm out of gas. If there's questions to start me up, I will riff about them. This is something that I do want to do more of this year. Is hold Q&As. Just show up. I mean, in some sense, it's just like these Ask Me Anythings that everybody wants to do. And it is. But, I'd really rather it be, ask me anything about the living computation theory of everything, or ask me anything about living computation or whatever it is. And my only requirement, my only request is that the questions be good-spirited, the questions be sincere, and if they are, then I'll probably it'll probably wind me up, and I'll go brr, 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 and then I'll run down after a couple of minutes, and I'll say, no, hopefully that makes some sense, because that's the end of every story. The point of all this stuff is that if you're transmitting good code, the receiver, it will make sense. And if they think about it further, it will suggest further improvements or things that could be done, courses of action that would be implementable, stuff you could really do. So that's it. All right. Well, it's coming on the bottom of the hour, so maybe that's a good time to call it for today. As usual, I haven't slept lately. I slept a little bit, but I always end up doing it. Doing the prep at the last minute, because I always keep hoping I'll be able to get some great new results or whatever it is. Thanks, Andrew. You have a great week too. I'll be in touch about stuff that the collected works 10. I got the markup and I've converted it to LaTeX mostly. So step by step. Okay, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. That it warms my little heart. And see you next time. All right.